and I just lost my screen. Market Jamaica as a viable alternative for investment. Collaborate with the diaspora to discuss, identify, and implement initiatives for harnessing the potential that exists within their home country and which complement the national development agenda. And for alliances in areas such as business, social investment, among others, and align with the Jamaica 60 commemorative program to deliver a culturally immersive experience and encourage national pride in our heritage. Friends, work is well advanced in relation to the program for the conference, and of course, you will hear more from Professor Ying and Ms. Ogilvy on that. And we are very happy that they have joined us in this effort this year. We'll be moving full speed ahead in the coming days to mobilize support across the globe through satellite briefings hosted by our overseas missions, such as this one, as well as through the use of social and other media. We look forward to your support in promoting this important conference. As conference coordinator, my role is to ensure that the various components align seamlessly. So when I started the preparations for the conference, my beard was black. You can see the color. And my role is really to deliver a conference that will reflect the theme with a focus on digital transformation of the country. We propose to deliver a conference that is global in scope with over 5,000 attendees from all corners of the world, and a conference that is precise, engaging, inclusive, informative, innovative, and interactive. We're truly excited by the possibilities and motivated to maximize the benefits of the digital platform on which a conference will be staged. We encourage you to register and join us for the Jamaica 60 Diaspora Conference. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I hope to take some of your questions a little bit later. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Franz Hall, and Franz Nicholas Hall to be exact. We certainly appreciate those comments and look forward to our question and answer. At this point, we will invite Ms. Lisa Ann Ogilvy, who is our Diaspora Conference Project Manager, to present, and we're going to enable screen sharing for you, Lisa, so that you can absolutely present your screen. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Lisa, yes, if you could, yeah, just begin speaking so we have 137. Thank you so much, community leaders. So just speak so we can spotlight you. Thank you. You could go ahead and speak, Lisa Ann. So we
yes.
Yeah, screen sharing, great. You're able to share your screen. Perfect.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this very important discussion. Let me just share my screen. Yes, right. So thank you very much for having me be a part of this. It has been a whirlwind of an experience getting ready for the Diaspora Conference. I apologize that my video is not yet on. I'm not sure what is happening. But I wanted to give a very quick overview of the preparations that are currently underway for the Jamaica 60 Diaspora Conference. As Mr. Hall has said, our effort is on really putting together a program that's inclusive, that's engaging, that's substantive. And I have been given my specific orders by the ministry in terms of supporting the pulling together of the myriad teams in Jamaica, in the diaspora, to deliver an event of national importance, bringing the diaspora together. And so the premise that drives the operation is that this is more than an event. What it is a national mission. It absolutely is. And we're very focused on ensuring that Jamaicans overseas are a critical part of Jamaica's future, a critical part of Jamaica's development goals. And the conference is just one aspect of that ambition. It is the signature diaspora engagement activity that's hosted, convened by the ministry. And it certainly includes, and Mr. Hall alluded to it, it certainly includes the thought and the involvement of all the ministries, departments, and agencies who all have a role to play in the national development agenda and are very interested in engaging with the diaspora. The missions, of course, are critical, supporting the charge, and certainly the Global Diaspora Council is also a critical component of that. So today's briefing, I'll give you a very quick overview of all the various elements that we're going through, the preparations that are underway, and really encourage the registration process and how you can become a part of the overall experience. So as indicated before, we have gone with a hybrid format. We'll have most of our participants online or target, as has been identified by other speakers. We're looking at 5,000 persons being gathered. Mr. Hall referred to a very successful symposium that occurred recently that had attracted, I think, almost 1,500 participants. And therefore, with this expanded program, the communications effort that we're putting in place, the signature alignment of the event, the kind of discussions we're planning to have, we really believe that we can achieve our target. Most of our persons will be online, as indicated before, and we're really asking everyone to register because you need to be registered to be able to participate on the portal. We will be having, regrettably, an absolute maximum of 100 persons in person. And this is simply because, one, the capacity of the location, two, COVID protocols. There'll be a very transparent process to be pursued in terms of the confirmation process for the persons who will be able to join us in person. But certainly there are some specific limitations that are dictated simply by the size of the venue and the COVID protocols that we have to observe. So, so that is a key concern. We have been hearing a lot about persons wanting to come in person, but we have not yet seen any registration to reflect that. So if there are participants here who are interested in joining us in person, it really would make sense for you to start registering now so that you can be a part of the experience. So our target participation and why. So we're looking at 5,000 Jamaicans overseas over 3 days. As a matter of fact, it's going to be a combination of the two because it's a bringing together of the diaspora with Jamaicans at home. So we're targeting 5,000 registered attendees, and we're really focusing now on not just the traditional locations, but we're really sending our messaging and our engagement out into the non-traditional diaspora cities where there are a lot of Jamaicans who we really want to engage and bring into the fold. The flexibility of participating in a virtual conference, you know, this has stronger appeal for a lot of younger nationals and a lot of persons who perhaps wanted to attend before. You know, you can just simply join where you are. So this year as well, it's our signature year. Again, our speakers prior to this have spoken to our Jubilee. And certainly this, we believe, will also be a catalyst encouraging persons to come and hear what it is that we have to say. And we're certainly working really closely with the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports to ensure that that sort of positioning is really entrenched, because we're really positioning the program as well as a sort of a diaspora independence celebration. So we overlay the substantive conversations and the focus on the future with uniquely Jamaican, exciting entertainment and other aspects. So the overall format and the content, we believe, is an overall draw. And then importantly as well, we have waived the fees this year. The minister and the permanent secretary and other relevant stakeholders made that decision to make it free for 2022, again, following on what Mr. Hall just said, to really maximize connections after 2 years of the pandemic and being apart. So the virtual platform, I thought that the best way to demonstrate the virtual platform was to actually just play a very brief video.
To register for MFAFT's Diaspora Conference 2022, visit mfaft.gov.jm/JA60 Diaspora CONF. Select the Register As drop-down arrow and select Attendee Registration. Enter your full name, email address, and password, then select Agree and Continue. Enter any additional information required and select Next to complete the registration process. Once you have logged in or registered, you will see the newsfeed. The newsfeed shows updates and posts from the event admin, sponsors, and other attendees. To post to the newsfeed, select Here and type your message. You can select the photo video icon or the emoji to add an image or feeling to your post, and select Post. Select Exhibitor Hall to the left of your screen to see virtual booths from the event's sponsors. Click a booth to visit it. Use the various links to interact with the sponsor's brand. Select the Next Booth or Previous Booth buttons at the top of the page to navigate. Leaderboard. The leaderboard shows the ranking of the attendees by points. Points can be collected by visiting certain pages on the platform to qualify attendees for prizes. Select Collect Points on the leaderboard to see where you can visit to get uncollected points. Briefcase. Various items through the platform can be added to your briefcase. Such items are indicated by a briefcase icon next to them. Attendees are able to download these items and retrieve them from their briefcase. Live stream. You can see upcoming sessions in the Schedules tab. Sessions can be added to your calendar to ensure you're notified in time to join and to be easily accessed. While a live stream is active, you may simply select the live stream button on the left of your screen or select the video icon that is always at the top of your page. A few actions become available when in a live session. On the left of your screen, there are 3 tabs. The Chat tab allows you to see comments from others. You can make a comment or reply by typing your comment here and selecting the Send icon. The Participants tab shows a list of participants currently online. The Q&A tab allows you to see questions from others to the presenters. You can ask a question by typing it here, then selecting the Send icon.
Great. Thank you. So that is the overview of the platform that we will be using. So I wanted to move on now to the conference highlights. So we have been really focused as well on the framing of the program. Professor Ying has been a staple of the Diaspora Conference, bringing his acumen to the dialogue, the development of the dialogue. And in addition to this critical aspect of the program, we will be overlaying the other aspects of the program to broaden the experience for the participants. So as we mentioned, it's aligned with the 60th commemorative activities. We're really going to be focused on virtual best practices, shorter panels, varying the types of panels. And so we are going to be having those relevant substantive discussions aligned with diaspora interests and the National Development Agenda, as Professor Ying will go into, whilst we'll be overlaying this engaging, entertaining content that we have in mind. So the focus is really on us being inspiring. It must feel good. We really want to inspire national pride. But really and truly, the conference is a means to an end. It's not just about the conference, it's what happens after. So we're really focused too on the post-event actions, the pivotal dialogue, and what comes out of that as well. We have worked through a basic schedule of activities. We've already been meeting with the various groups for the church services that are going to be happening. And then we have the 3 days of activities that Professor Ying is going to be going into in some detail. So some of the features of the wider features of the conference. First, the virtual marketplace. Now, the Government at Your Service program that was introduced in 2013, has become an important staple of the Diaspora Conference, where these ministries, departments, and agencies are offering fast-tracked services to participants in person. And this year we're going virtual. And we're working across the board with a range of these departments and agencies for them to be offering these services online. So from PICA through to RGD, the National Lands Agency, Customs, you name them, Trade Board, they will all be participating in the Government at Your Service program in the virtual marketplace, offering these specialized services. And as the platform demonstrated, you can once you enter into the marketplace, you can chat directly, you can speak to them via video. So it's really very interactive, almost as if you're there in person. The virtual marketplace will also involve and include participants from the private sector, small and medium enterprises, creatives, philanthropic organizations, and it will be a combination of participants from at home as well as organizations that are overseas, Jamaican overseas that are abroad. So we welcome the participation. We're no longer limited by the space of a room with the virtual space. And so we are inviting businesses and organizations, if you wish to be front and center the diaspora audience, please join us and be a part of the experience. Our legacy partners are also very involved, Jamaica National Group, Victoria Mutual Group, and Grace Kennedy Group. And they will also be overlaying their bespoke experiences. So for example, each evening, each of these partners will be producing a different event for our online audience, an evening activity, and that's going to be really very exciting. Mr. Rochester spoke to the diaspora hubs, and this is not just limited to New York. There are other missions who will be hosting small gatherings, basically watch parties, where we'll have gatherings of Jamaicans at the mission or at the locations that they have identified. Miami has indicated interest. There's going to be one in Japan. I think Miami is also hosting every day as well. And there are a number of others that will be coming on stream that we'll be announcing very shortly. And to top off the overall experience on the platform, there'll be gamification features that will allow and maximize the sort of interactive networking of participants during the program. So whilst in between the discussions, if you're not going to the virtual marketplace, there'll be other things that you can be doing online to maximize the amount of time persons spend. Because we understand too that virtual fatigue is a thing. So we're really focused on looking at how it is that we can make this very interesting and inclusive, so that a wider range of persons will be staying online to participate in the overall program. This is just a snapshot of some of the MDA's partners that have already confirmed their key alignment and partnership with us. Very involved in the from the provision of resources to the participation in the marketplace, to their involvement in our subcommittees for the various areas that we're currently planning, from marketing through to event look and feel, all of these aspects to pulling together a conference of note. They are all very heavily involved in the preparations as well. So our communications and global rollout. Mr. Hall again mentioned our launch and the satellite briefings that are going to be staged. So we're placing very heavy emphasis on digital engagement. We're placing a lot of emphasis on direct marketing. This meeting that has been convened is a perfect example of that. We're talking to you directly, pressing our case, the reason why you need to be a part of this. And there's really a heavy emphasis on partnership, on our partners' involvement as well, as they have very close linkages with the diaspora communities, and they are through their networks as well, looking at the wider engagement. So the launch events last Friday that occurred, and then just to expand a little bit more on these briefings, there are actually 7 briefings that will be occurring between May 16 and 20. And these are from Canada to Miami to Washington, in UK, in Trinidad and Tobago, for the Jamaicans dispersed in the Caribbean. In Europe, there is a joint briefing that's being hosted by Brussels, Germany, and the PRUN office. And for the Asia Pacific joint briefing, that one will be staged by Japan, China, and India together. So we have 7 major events aligned with our objective of reaching out to Jamaicans outside of the traditional locations, so that we really have a coming together of a global grouping of Jamaicans from around the world. So just to close, we are really looking forward to an exciting event. Mr. Hall again said engaging, that's absolutely our focus, substantive, diaspora-focused experience. We are cognizant of the value that the diaspora brings to the national conversation, to the national development agenda, and how it is that you can contribute in various ways. And we're looking forward to hosting this event that will allow your participation, that will allow your contribution, and that will push our agenda forward as it relates to Jamaica's development. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Lisa Ghibli, the project manager for Diaspora 2022 conference. And thank you so much for everyone who has joined us via Zoom this evening, as well as via our social media outlets. We're asking Ms. Brenda Peer to monitor our social media pages and to post any questions from social media in the chat. And absolutely, we're looking forward to our question and answer, our discussion segment at this time. So thank you so much, Lisa. And also thank you for standing by for the interactive session with our audience members. May I now invite Professor Neville Ying, who, as you stated, Lisa, is certainly no stranger to us in the diaspora and has become a very good friend of mine and has always been a great partner of ours. Professor Neville Ying, the Program and Content Manager for the 2022 Diaspora Conference.
Thank you very much, Karen. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Well, before I go any further, colleagues from Virginia, from Washington, D.C., Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut. Have I covered everybody so far?
It's a little more than that, but we will not digress.
Who did I leave out? Those are all my friends from all the way from Virginia coming up.
California is here.
California. My first stop was San Diego in 1969.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta was the first place I landed in 1969. Joan McNeish, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. Great to hear you.
Yes, man. Well, looking forward to see you back at the house. Okay? I don't know you end up in this Northeast, but I thought you were in Atlanta. But anyway, it's wonderful to be back with the diaspora. As you hear, I've been around from 1969, from landing in Atlanta, going down to San Diego, and then coming back to DC 1972. So it's been a long haul. And that's why I feel so confident that we're going to have a very exciting conference. One of the reasons is that the program is what you say you wanted to hear, because how we started this year is to have consultations with the diaspora. And so I want to thank Karen and Kevin and all the other members of the Global Diaspora Council and the Global Diaspora Youth Council, because they really went out and engaged you and said what you want to hear. So the conference program is what you say you want to hear. Now, is 5,000 people doable? Of course it is. I gave a public lecture on education transformation in Jamaica at the end of March. And 3,800 persons from the diaspora are listening. So if 3,800 people are listening to me alone, can you imagine with all the other speakers, we must get 5,000 people. So I am quite sure that 5,000 people will be tuning in from June 14th to 16th. So let me get straight to what we're going to talk about. We are into what is called a new world. And there are 3 words that describe this new world: digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation. And that's the context within which this conference is framed. Now, I've just finished some research on these three words, and what it says to me is that you're going to have a mixture of people that are going to be interacting with these three words. You're going to have young people called Generation Z. Those are people going up to 24. Then you have the millennials, which go up to 45. Then you have Generation X. And then you have old people like me. But the point is that all of us will have to live in this digital world. And so diaspora engagement is about how we satisfy the needs and the concerns and the issues of all these people and make them feel comfortable in this new digitalized world. And so that's what the conference is attempting to do, to make you feel comfortable to deal with this new world. Now, one of the things I like about Jamaicans is that, and I'll tell you two stories. When we had Air Jamaica, I heard a lady cussing everybody at the front desk. And I was very surprised when I went on the plane and she came and sat beside me. So I said, hold on a second. How are you cussing off everybody and you're on the plane? She said, that's what I like about Jamaica. We have somebody for cuss. So you're going to curse the ministry, you're going to curse everybody, but what I like about the diaspora is that you're all going to turn up at the conference and do some more cussing and some quarreling, and then we're going to have a wonderful time. When we started back in 2003, Rex Nettleford said to me, the late Rex Nettleford, he said, the nice thing about the diaspora is that it represents what we call creative chaos. So you're going to have a lot of contention and contending views, and that's what's going to make the conference exciting. So what are we going to do? On the first day, we're going to have a keynote speaker from Microsoft. And she will be talking about this new digital world. And she'll be mentioning things like big data, artificial intelligence, metaverse, and all those things. And what are these things meaning to us? All these changes in technology. In 2019, we heard about nanotechnology. And what this is talking about is, can you imagine something that is 1/1,000,000th the size of a meter? Now imagine it, because instead of having chemotherapy and all that kind of treatment for cancer, we now can inject nanobots into you and have your cancer treatment. And so we want to hear some more about that in the health section that we're going to have. All these new technologies are and things like telemedicine are going to reshape what we're doing. But the first session of the conference will set the stage for how we capitalize on all these new technologies to make diaspora engagement exciting and productive for all of us. We'll then go into education. Education, as you know, all over the world, we have had dislocations in terms of teachers and students. Jamaica is no exception. And so that section will focus on teacher training. How do you deal with all these new technologies in online teaching, hybrid teaching, and all that kind of mix? How you deal with things like the digital divide, where some people don't have internet connections and they don't have tablets and they don't have computers. How can we work with the diaspora to deal with all of this? Another very important area for education is community transformation. We have lost a lot of our young people into crime and violence. How can we bring them back? Some are going into a lot of scamming. How can we do an education transformation program with the diaspora to redeem all of those people that bring them back into the mainstream? So that's another area that session will deal with. Our workforce. Can you imagine people getting used to working from anywhere and digitally and having all kind of anxieties and trying to balance work and private life? All of that we want to look at in the section on healthcare. Our hospitals and health clinics were overstretched during COVID-19. We want to work with the diaspora to see how we can build back our health centers, our clinics, and our hospitals. And also, very importantly, there is a big backlog of surgeries because of COVID-19. And so the Minister of Health want to invite the diaspora to participate in how we can clear this backlog of surgeries. So I'm just giving you snippets as I go along, because I want most of the time to be spent on questions and answers. Then we go to the creative industries. The origin economy is vital to Jamaica. Whether you're talking about music and entertainment, whether you're talking about fashion, whether you're talking about food, whether you're talking about sports, all of those are critical. And that was the area that was hardest hit by, along with tourism in 2019. How can we work with the diaspora to combine their skills and expertise, especially in digitalization, as well as transfer of learning, to build our orange economy in Jamaica and create jobs and excite the diaspora? How can we work together on that? Then there are vast business opportunities for the diaspora. So we're going to look at what we call business and diaspora investment. What's very interesting is throughout COVID-19, the stock market actually did very well. And so there is a lot of opportunities for the diaspora to invest in what we call the junior market and the main market of the diaspora. Also, there's a lot of opportunities for investment in agriculture, in housing, in what we call the global services, whether it is business process outsourcing or whether it's knowledge process outsourcing. They are very exciting investments in Jamaica right now. Now, the war in Ukraine and Russia has posed us a very serious problem in food security. And so agriculture, agro-industries, and agribusiness is a very vital area for the diaspora to take interest in covering. Now, we're also going to have some special forums in the conference. One of the concerns we have is that most members of our diaspora are aging. So we have to engage the younger members of the diaspora. So we're going to have a special forum for young members to see how they can come up with a roadmap of strategies for having the same affinity for Jamaica that the people in the Windrush age in England had for Jamaica and still have. And how can we get the young people involved? Or faith-based organizations, the church is a very strong element both in Jamaica and in the diaspora. How can the church help us and the faith-based groups in terms of engaging the diaspora and also in this very important area of community transformation? One of the things that came out of the consultations is that there's still need for us to have a greater level of customer satisfaction from our government at your service agencies, whether it's the PICA that supply you passports and citizenship records, birth certificates, paying land taxes, getting your TRN. And so there's going to be a special forum in the conference about how we can ramp up our customer satisfaction from those agencies. Now the conference ends with, what are we going to do about all these recommendations that we put forward so that we can focus after the conference on actions to make sure that things don't only stop when we stop talking on the 16th, but they will continue long afterwards. What actions will the diaspora take and what actions will the government take? And what are we going to do about things like our diaspora policy? How can we get it into real action after the conference? That, ladies and gentlemen, is a brief overview, and I hope you are excited enough now to ask a whole lot of questions and engage us in a vigorous and robust discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Neville Ying, leading on program and content for the 2022 Diaspora Conference. Professor Ying, I'm curious if you're able to turn on your camera. That has been a request from several of our attendees. I'm not sure if that's possible on your end, but you absolutely can put your camera on as we now go into our interactive session or question and answer session. Thank you so much. So we're going to see several hands raised. In the interest of time, especially because I know that some organizations are meeting immediately after this convening, we're going to ask you just to restrict to questions only. Thank you so much. And you can also post in the chat. So I know Leslie and Samuel, if you could unmute. Leslie, and I know that you had several questions as well, and then we'll go to our other attendees. And Ms. Brenda Peart, if you could drop the questions from social media. We're streaming on the Jamaica Diaspora Northeast USA page and on the consulate pages. I'm going to ask Chris Benjamin, monitoring, if you could drop those questions in the chat. Thank you. President Leslie Ann Samuel from UJA.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dunkley. It is really great to be here, and I appreciate the effort being made to provide this briefing. I'm going to start with the marketplace because UJA has in the past participated. Since the marketplace started, UJA has been present. So I'm a little unclear about the virtual marketplace. So are we saying that there will not be a physical marketplace? The only marketplace will be virtual? Is that how I should understand that?
I'm going to invite Lisa. Thank you. Ms. Agivale to respond. Thank you.
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm trying to.
Not hearing you, honey.
Yeah. We're not hearing you, Lisa. I think you had maybe one device for audio and one for the visual. So we'll just give her a minute just to set up. Thank you.
So that question actually has a part two. Okay. About the marketplace. My assumption is that it will be all virtual, but haven't seen any documentation about that. I saw the slide, however, that said everything was free. So is the marketplace also free? It hasn't been free in the past. So I'm hopeful that this is also free. And a third part of this question then is, when will we see the information that would allow us to participate? You know, what the details are about how we can, in fact, in a virtual way, be a part of that marketplace.
Thank you so much, Leslie Ann. Lisa Ann, how are we doing with our audio?
I think we're okay now.
Okay.
Great. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. The virtual marketplace, to participate in the marketplace, is not free. There was a cost attached. And simply because there are costs to stage the actual conference, it's a part of the way by which we fund the conference. So no, there will be no free booths for the marketplace. We have made, however, we have waived the fees for attendance in an effort to maximize our engagement with the target participants. Or participants in the marketplace usually represent a wide cross-section, as mentioned before: business, philanthropy, the ministries, departments, and agencies. And so all participants in the marketplace will be paying a fee for participation.
So no physical marketplace?
No, there won't be a physical marketplace.
Okay,
it will be all online.
I just want to make sure about that.
An engaging experience. It's not just a banner that you see. There's actually a 3D booth that will be provided for each exhibitor in the marketplace. You can actually go to the booth, see videos happening. You can chat with the booth operators. You can conduct business. E-commerce has been activated. So it will be almost as if you expect to have, as if you're in person, in a lot of respects.
So when can we expect the documentation that will tell us about that?
Right. We do have that available. And I was also saying that for persons who are interested, I had shared the email that expressions of interest could be made to. And that email address is diasporaconference@mfaft.gov.jm. Diaspora Conference at mfaft.gov.jm.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Lisa Ann. And while we're taking another question, I will just ask you just to drop that quickly in the chat so that we can absolutely continue the engagement for those who may not have a question immediately, but can certainly rely on this email for future reference. Thank you. I
Absolutely.
see someone going by the name of Fire. Thank you so much, Madam President. Leslie Ann, that concludes.
I just have one more question,
Yes.
and that's for Professor Ying. I
Yes.
appreciate the overview, Professor Ying. How you do? Are we going to, I registered already, but there's no data on the website right now that tells you what's happening when. So when will we see that?
Okay, Leslie Ann. Nice seeing you again.
Same here.
Usual, my good friends at usual.
There you go.
So hi to Carleen for me.
She's here. She's hearing you.
Oh, my immaculate old girl. Okay.
That's right.
We're going to have a final meeting on Sunday.
Okay.
And then we'll release the program. But the education section is actually on the first day.
Right. I got that. Yeah. But there were other things that I was actually very interested in, like the food industries one and such. So just kind of trying to get an idea of what else is going on. So sometime next week. So next week we'll see the schedule.
Yes, after next week we'll try to get that out. But we're trying to have a final meeting of the program committee coming up in Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but I know pretty much the timetable so far. I mean, we're going to start with the setting of the stage first, the opening ceremony, followed by the setting of the stage, followed by education, by the different forums. And then we start Wednesday morning with health. And then we get straight to creative industries. And then in the afternoon, we have the diaspora business and investments. And then we get to Thursday, where we'll have all the reports on future actions. That's in a nutshell how the flow of activities go.
Okay, so when is the agriculture one?
On Wednesday afternoon.
On Wednesday afternoon? Okay. Got it. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing the actual schedule.
Good.
Appreciate it. That's it for me, Dr. Dunkley. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And moving to our next attendee, named Fire. Fire, you've had your hand up quite early and for a while. Thank you for your patience. Please go ahead with your question only.
Hi, Karen, this is Minna actually.
Hi, Minna.
Minna LaFortune. Hi, everyone. I have a couple questions actually. Number one, with regards to engaging diaspora for this celebration, how is the diaspora being harnessed to participate in the cultural aspect of the celebration? Meaning, will diasporans be encouraged to recite poems or sing a song or, something of that sort? Number one. Number two, what about the young diasporans of young people from Jamaican families? How are they being encouraged to engage? Young people like to demonstrate their artistic side. How are they being encouraged to participate in the conference? And number three, I did say two. Number three, in terms of the health issues, it seemed to me that a lot of other aspects of health concerns should be discussed in the health regarding health issues in Jamaica, such as mental health among Jamaicans, men, women, children, and domestic violence, and youth homicides, and these other issues. So, we are exposed in the global setting where we find ourselves to different programs that are effective. So I think this is where something needs to be developed to encourage that type of discussion, so that these programs that people are privy to can be replicated maybe in Jamaica. So I'm just saying that in terms of health, I think that needs to be expanded. In terms of the cultural participation, I think the diaspora should be encouraged to participate. There should be a part in the program where diasporans are encouraged to recite a poem or sing a song or something, or have a show.
Just 30 seconds. Thank you. We have so many hands up and coming in from social media. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's basically my question.
Thank you so much. All right, Lisa, and then Professor Ying. And I'm
Yes.
bringing Mr. Hall back into spotlight. Thank you.
Certainly. As it relates to participation in the program, in the cultural program, there are opportunities. As a matter of fact, I had a meeting just today with the Entertainment Look and Feel Committee, and they are considering a number of participants from overseas. If you would like to be considered, again, you can send a message to the Secretariat, where we'll receive it in the central mailbox. Diaspora Conference at mfaft.gov.jm, and express your interest, and then we can take it from there. But to answer your question, yes, we are looking at, it will be primarily performances out of Jamaica, but we are considering the inclusion in the entertainment package, the participation of creatives outside of Jamaica, Jamaicans outside of Jamaica as well. The second question was that for Professor Ying? Was that speaking to the program?
I think so.
The second question was
speaking directly to the item on the health, the subject of health on the program, where I think it needs to be expanded to all aspects of the health situation, in terms, especially in mental health. Mental health now is being treated like any physical health in America, and that's a transformation. That's major transformation.
All right. Could I get a chance to answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. When you see the detailed description of that section, it starts by pointing out exactly what you said.
Professor Ying, are you able to come on camera?
I am on camera.
Okay, yeah, we can see you now. You just make sure you're right. Thank you. We could see you.
Now, I was just saying that when you look at the detailed description of the session, it starts by saying that one of the issues out of COVID-19 was work-life balance and mental health issues, just like what you mentioned. And so the discussion will be, how do you find partnerships and relationships with the diaspora to help to deal with those? And so when you see the full description of the and so you have an opportunity to do that in several ways. One, the persons who are going to be actually panelists, and then just to tell you that the way we are structuring the 2-hour session, there'll be all of at least 90 minutes of interactive discussion. And that's where, if we leave out anything that you want to be included, you will have a golden opportunity to indicate that. Another thing that's mentioned in the program is what we call labor laws, which come up out of all those issues that you mentioned. So for instance, what COVID-19 has pointed out to us is that there are some very important laws in the health sector that we need to look at. The first one is what is called occupational safety and health. And that, of course, includes mental health. The second one is having to do with flexible work arrangements and how that affect work-life balance. So you'll see all of those stated in the program description, and the person that we asked to speak will speak to some of them. But as I said, in case they missed out anything, there'll be all of 90 minutes for persons like yourself to make specific suggestions as to how the diaspora and ourselves can work together in tackling those areas.
Thank you so much, Professor Ying. Thank you. And we do have some questions in the chat. So we're going to take 2 more from the Zoom Live, and then we'll respond to some of the questions posted in the Zoom chat, as well as from social media. So I think this is Reverend Maitland. You are coming across as Hyundai E553. Can you go ahead and, in the interest of time, please ask your question briefly? Thank you.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly. And if you're able to come on camera, we can absolutely spotlight you. If not, that's just fine. Thank you.
I don't know, put the camera. Okay, I just wanted to say good evening again to everyone, and for me to be on this panel again. I just asking. I am from Augusttown, and we have a farmers group, and we do agro processing, and we have a farmers market. And for the first time here on this panel, I'm just asking, how can we participate in this program to help us to be more self-reliant, to help ourselves and our families and others? Because whatever we do, we don't do it for hunger ourselves. We do it to share it and to mobilize it and to get some young people to train, where we have Rod on board with us, the Minister of Agriculture, JAS, SDC, JBDC, University MMS, and UTEC is on board with us, and we have our CDC, and which I just wanted you to just know that we will be having our event on the 1st of August, which we have Diaspora on board with us, which is Rudy Page and Mr. Dean Roden and others, who will be programming our farmers market launch on the 1st of August. So we'll have to highlight us more, to promote us so more in whatever we are doing here in Augusttown African Garden, to let our light shine and to be self-reliant more within our community and in the further era of our country, both local and international.
I'm very happy to welcome our Augusttown rep. Do you remember me? Hello?
Hello.
Augusttown?
Yes, I'm here.
Do you remember Duda Kalala that I sent down to work in African Gardens?
Mr. Kalada, how are you?
No. I was the one who sent Duda Kalala down there. This is Professor Ying from UWI.
Yes.
And I came down there with Olivine Burke.
Yes, certainly.
Remember the Diaspora Youth Connect project? That's where Duda Kalala worked with you to set up the African Garden. So I'm very delighted to hear that you are progressing very, very well. Now, just to let you know that the Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Colonel Charles, will be speaking on the Wednesday afternoon session about opportunities for agribusiness and agriculture involving the diaspora and communities. So you need to probably touch base with Dr. Burke from the Mona Social Services and ask her to get in touch with Minister Pernell Charles, that he can highlight your program and invite some of the diaspora members to take an interest in how they can support you. As you know, you're one of my favorite projects, along with the Mona Social Services. And I'll let Duda Kalala know that the African Gardens are going very well. You still have those plants on the wall where you plant the plants in plastic bottles on the wall?
Oh, yeah.
Professor Ying, we're going to definitely take you there when we're in Jamaica to visit. And so we can get to the other question. But we'll ask.
Well, that's a project that's near and dear to my heart because,
we love that. And that is good. And we know that Dean Roden, we happen to have inside knowledge here because Dean Roden and the Northeast think tank work very closely, certainly with the group. So thank you so much, Reverend Maitland. So Jeffrey Tavares, we're going to have you ask this question live, and then we're going to go to some questions in the chat. We're seeing discount airfare and travel. So something to think about, Mr. Hall, if we're working on that. Go ahead, Mr. Jeffrey Tavares, host of Make We Talk. We had a series of forums during COVID, so we should have trademarked, but we did not. Go ahead, sir, and please ask your question. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My question is this. The diaspora has been giving Jamaica millions or maybe billions and billions of dollars in remittance and other things. The two political parties has promised the diaspora that they will have somebody sit in parliament as a senator. Until date, none of the political parties has put legislation in parliament or passed a bill in parliament for that to happen. My question is this: when is the members of the diaspora going to come together and demand that the government, whether the PNP or the JLP, pass legislation in parliament that a member of the diaspora sit in parliament? The People's National Party is coming up to have a tour. Is anybody of the diaspora gonna put the question to the leader of the opposition pertaining to that? And when are we gonna really sit down at the table and ask both the government and the opposition? The time has come for the diaspora to sit in the Parliament of Jamaica.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tavares. That's quite a compelling question, and the audience for that question is certainly here. We have quite a number of community leaders, very active, with a litany and a legacy of that kind of advocacy. So I think that what might be helpful is to connect you to groups that we know are very open and have been advocating on this issue. And I know personally, and we look forward to engaging with you. Yes. We have many of such groups. So I will absolutely send you in private chat now some of those contacts, and then I'll give you my contact so we could put you in touch directly. Thank you, sir. So questions, is there arrangement? Claudette Powell is asking. Claudette is our state chair, Jamaica Diaspora Northeast USA Health Sector. Thank you so much, Claudette, for the work you do. What do we have in terms of arrangement for discounted air and hotel?
Thank you. So let me take a first go at this question. Ms. Powell, thank you so much for your question. It certainly is something that we are looking at. We already have from hotels in Kingston preferential rates that they have put aside for participants who may be coming down for the conference. And this really it's not tied, because we have a limited in-person attendance. Even if you come to Jamaica and you indicate that you are going to participate in the conference, you would benefit from those special rates, of course, subject to the availability of the rooms at the respective hotels. That hotel information will be put on the conference platform on the website so that that information is widely available. In terms of airfares, we don't yet have any confirmed agreements, but we have reached out to a few airline carriers and we are expecting a response from them. But when we have that information, we will certainly share as well widely through our missions and through our various groups that we have. For example, Dr. Dunkley would be a conduit through whom we would send that information as well. But that it would also be put on the conference platform website when we have that information. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you. And Lawman Lynch is asking, if you have already booked, will the rate given prior to today's date be adjusted? So will there be an adjustable rate if someone has already reserved a room?
That we can check. If you are able to share the information with us, we can liaise with the hotel directly to say this person has registered for the conference or is participating in the conference and would like to benefit from the special rate. So that is something that we have to bring to the attention of the hotel to get their agreement.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hall. And Professor Ying, if you could answer briefly, this is coming in from social media. If someone would like to be a presenter, what is the way in which they can access becoming a presenter?
Well, what I assume is that they would have already been in touch with the persons who made recommendations, because we're pretty much have filled all the slots so far. But one of the good things about the conference is that there is space for people to raise questions in the interact or make comments and give perspectives in the interactive session. So even if you're not, listed as a panelist, you'll have ample opportunity in about an hour to participate in that way.
Thank you so much. At this time, we're going to invite, we have a question from Mr. Lester Hines, and Lisa, in the meantime, another question on the virtual marketplace. How will in-person attendees participate? So Lester Hines, coming to you for your question, and then Lisa, coming to you for a response on the virtual marketplace and in-person attendees. Thank you. Lester Hines. Donovan, I'm going to ask you, my co-host, just to make sure you're muted. Thank you, as we're in our Q&A. Thank you so much. Lester, please unmute. All right, I'm not seeing Lester, so Captain Francis, thank you so much. If you can go ahead with your question, thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I don't know why they're not seeing me.
Oh, no, we didn't hear you either. Okay, Captain, Mr. Lester Hines is on. Go ahead, Mr. Hines, and then Captain will come right back to you.
Okay. All right, my first question is, what will be the cost of hosting the conference this year? 1. 2, we were promised that the diaspora policy would have come through Parliament in time for the conference this year, yet we don't see anything being presented to the policy being presented to Parliament for approval. So what will happen with the diaspora policy? Will the conference go without it? Thirdly, you're hosting the conference at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that hosts only 100 people in the conference room. Why is it that you have not been able to bring in more people rather than the legacy partners to fund the conference so that you could have it at somewhere like the ballroom at the Pegasus, given the fact that the conference center in Kingston is under refurbishing?
Thank you, Mr. Hines. That concludes, so 3 questions. Mr. Hall, we'll start with you. Thank you so much. And whoever else would like to add, thank you.
Thank you so much. I missed the first question. My apologies.
The first question is, what's the cost of hosting the conference? How much is the conference costing?
Right. Okay, thank you for that, for the questions. The budget that we're working with has a budget of, it's about 30 million Jamaican dollars to stage the virtual conference, which of course is heavily dependent on technology. So that's where a lot of the funds will be going. We want to ensure that while we have to pivot to a virtual setting, that we don't sort of scrimp on the experience that people would have. So a lot of the funds are going towards the virtual experience. The second question was,
we were promised that the diaspora policy would have passed Parliament before the conference.
Right.
Yet it's.
So let me deal with the location of the third question before the diaspora policy. There are a number of factors that went into using the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, primarily cost considerations. Of course, responding to COVID, coming out of that whole experience with companies that are very sort of sensitive to their spend at this time, it was, our preliminary indications was that we would not have received the level of participation that it would have, the level of support, financial support, that it would take to put on the conference in a location that is outside of the ministry. You would note, for example, that there are only 3 legacy partners this year as opposed to 4. And I think that speaks to the real issues that a lot of companies are having. So hence, it's at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Normally, we could accommodate up to 250 people in our conference room. But of course, as we mentioned earlier, with COVID protocols and with the guidance from the Ministry of Health in keeping with their public health requirements, or their recommendations, they have suggested that we could hold safely hold no more than 100 people. And that's a legacy of COVID that we're still working through. In terms of the diaspora policy, there has been regrettably some delay in processing the policy through the various state legislative stages. But I can say to you that the policy is now being submitted to cabinet. The cabinet submission has been prepared and the policy has been finalized for submission to cabinet for consideration, for approval to go to parliament as a white paper. We remain hopeful that by conference we will have the policy adopted, and I can speak for Professor Ying here, where we intend to have a session in the conference where we will discuss the diaspora policy. We're trying to work very quickly on getting some visuals and some animations to really explain the policy in a way that people can really get quickly. But certainly it is our intention to have the policy adopted and to have a session at conference dealing with the policy. I hope that answers your question, sir.
It just seems to me that we've been promised that this would have taken place some time ago, and there just seems to be inordinate delay in terms of getting the policy in front of the in cabinet. Mm-hmm. Two, I mean, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the diaspora did input into this policy document.
Yes,
it went back, it was revised, and all of that, and yet it is still not gone to cabinet for approval.
Well, gone back to cabinet. You recall it had gone to cabinet previously, and they sent it back because there was some work that needed to have been done. Additional consultations were held, and and I agree with you. It has taken entirely too long for the policy to progress to where it needs to be. But the reality is having to deal with a situation of COVID where there was a significant impact on the work of the ministry and other ministries across the board. It really delayed the consideration of the policy. So
Mr. Hall,
we are certainly...
I'm sorry. I really don't accept that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine, Mr. Hines.
There's a simple reason. The fact is that the diaspora policy has been there for some time to be done, and it's not been done yet. But yet we're pushing through the NIDS thing before even the policy is done. So I mean, it could have been done if you wanted, even if with COVID.
I note your observations, Mr. Hines. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hines. And we're going to invite Ms. Zola, Captain Francis, and then Ms. Zola Pinto. Thank you so much, Mr. Hall. And Professor Ying, I hope you noted that session on the diaspora policy. That may be an important session for us to lift, certainly here on our end. Thank you. So Captain Francis, if you can.
Yes, Dr. Duncan, thank you very much for the opportunity to address this august body. I would like to say that it's similar, whatever my question is, very similar to the policy, but here we are asking for the Jamaican government is always asking us to invest in Jamaica, and we have constantly done that. My question is, when is the Jamaican government going to invest back in the diaspora? Give you an example. We have just asked New York to assist us in crime interdiction, and we have been asking now for 20-something years, from the beginning of this whole business of the diaspora council, and the government has not taken us seriously, yet we have far more expertise in many instances than New York has. Now we thank them for their offer, but they might have resources, and we welcome it, but at the same time, our people must say, we need to help, we need for you to say, when can you invest back in, so that we know we have the expertise to give to you, and the knowledge, the training, the education. When are we going to be serious of engaging our diaspora, who love it just as much as any other Jamaican on this earth, or not? That's my question. And involve us in what is going on in the conference, because we're not involved. Everything that's laid out, nothing shows that we're involved, and there is any likelihood of involving us. Thank you.
So Captain Francis, to be clear, I just want to clarify, you're specifically speaking to the crime portfolio.
That's correct.
You are
The crime
correct,
portfolio.
right?
Correct.
Okay, that
Crime
you did
portfolio.
not hear crime. I just want to clarify and elucidate.
Correct. Correct.
Thank you. You did
Thank you very
not
much.
hear crime, and you would like to know what is
Yes.
the conference's position in terms of content and program on crime. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarity. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor, Mr. Hall and Professor Ying, whoever.
Right, just quickly before Professor Ying takes it on, and perhaps I'm preempting him, but Dr. Francis, thank you for your question and observations. Through the consultations that were undertaken with the various diaspora groups that Professor Ying undertook as part of the preliminary work to determine the program for the conference, what has been presented or what has been shared today is the outcome of those consultations. So not to say that the issue is not important. In fact, there are opportunities for additional elements to be overlaid on the general conference outline. And last evening, there was a conversation about this very issue, about the importance of having security reflected on the agenda and to find an appropriate way to do so. So it is not something that we are trying to ignore or sweep under the carpet, but certainly we take your point, and just to indicate to you that it is a matter that is under active consideration as we work to finalize all the various elements of the conference.
Thank you,
Professor Ying. You're welcome, sir.
Hi, Rupert.
Hi, sir. How are you doing?
All right.
Good.
You know, Rupert, you need a whole conference on crime, right?
Yeah, we know that, but I will be willing
but,
to.
there are opportunities within this conference. Let me just point out where they are. The approach is really, what do we do about some critical elements in terms of crime prevention or rehabilitation? And if you notice, there are 2 sessions where there are opportunities to do that. The section on education that is called Education for Community Transformation. If you notice that when I was going through that area, and it says exactly that, which is what kind of program can we put in place to take the young people from a pathway of crime to a pathway of productive employment. So that's exactly what's in the program. So inputs can be made there. The next one is, if you look at what I said about the church and their whole effort about community transformation, again, that's another opportunity. So what I would suggest is that you get together with the persons who are presenting in the education part, which is dealing with, or you can make comments during the interactive session when that comes up, and also in the faith-based group forum, where again we're speaking about community transformation, which again is focusing on moving away from, you know, the pathway of crime to pathway of something else.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Captain Francis, and thank you, Professor Ying. And for those who have joined us via social media, the policy, you can visit the Ministry of Foreign Affairs website, mfaft.gov.jm. You'll get a copy, and thank you to Ms. Brenda Peart. She has dropped a copy, the link to the draft National Diaspora Policy. It's in the chat, as well as she has dropped the link. If you would like to register, you can click for conference registration. Thank you so much, Ms. Brenda Peart. We're going to invite Ms. Zola Pinto, and we're going to ask Dr. Michael Morgan to stand by for a brief question, as well as Mr. Michael Campbell to stand by, and then Ms. Lorraine Badley. Go ahead, Zola Pinto.
Thank you so much for taking my question. As it relates to what Professor Ying mentioned before about the nano cancer treatment and telemed services, my question is, who will be able to afford those services considering the conditions of the hospital or education and employment as it relates to cost? and access to health insurance. Secondly, how do we plan on addressing homelessness in Jamaica? As a social worker, these issues are social, and so I have interest in knowing what are the plans. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Pinto. Did we want to ask Mr. Hall or Professor Ying to address? I don't recall explicitly seeing the focus during the conference session on homelessness, but it might percolate depending on the strand. Professor Ying, any feedback there for Ms. Zola Pinto?
I'm sorry, I had to step out a minute. What was the question?
Oh, go ahead, Ms. Pinto.
Oh, the question is, you mentioned about cancer treatments and telemedicine or digital transformation. So my question is, who will be able to afford those services considering the conditions of the hospital or education and employment as it relates to cost and access to health insurance? And secondly, how do we plan on addressing homelessness in Jamaica?
Well, I can't deal with homelessness, okay? So in other words, I can't deal with all the questions that you ask. This is where the Minister of Health would have to speak to how we partner with. For instance, in 2019, we had Dr. Vincent Reed, who was a Jamaican who is doing a lot of work in nanotechnology and the whole area of how that relates to cancer treatment. So it's a matter of working out partnerships with people like that in the diaspora in terms of how those kind of partnerships can, you know, reduce cost. So that's part of what the partnership that they would have to look at. So that's where you'll have to have serious discussion about partnerships with those persons in the diaspora who are steeped in that technology and are actually doing treatment in that area.
Thank you, Professor Ying and Zolo. We can also connect you. Ms. Claudia Powell is here, and we have a very strong partnership with the Ministry of Health. So just those concerns around cost, and we know Dr. Reed quite well, actually. Thank you so very much. So we would like to, Lisa, we have seen this question in the chat asked in various forms, but the residue, the question remains the clarification around registration. So Dr. Clooney is saying, can there be clarification of registration? It seems that many have registered, but our registrations are not being recognized by the meeting planners. Dr. Clooney, I'm not sure if you're still with us. He's here, if he's able to come on. And Asinet Nelson, also from a great faith partner of ours, has a question because they are also not seeing their registration. Go ahead, Dr. Clooney.
Yes, I registered on Friday and received a confirmation back in my email stating that I was registered in person, but you're saying that you're not seeing anyone registered yet. So I just wanted to—
No, I didn't say that. No, sir, I didn't say that.
Okay,
I said the numbers that would, because there's a lot of concern about that there are 100 spaces.
Sure.
And I'm saying that the registration so far for persons who wish to be in person, there's not a large number of registrants in that category.
Okay, I didn't hear that at the beginning, but thank you. Okay, so then if we got a registration confirmation, then we are registered for in person.
So there was a caveat that you noticed that there was a paragraph. The question was, are you interested in being in person? And then there was a caveat. So we were going to be looking at the overall numbers. If there's an oversubscription, then we are going to be deciding exactly how it is that we are going to be addressing the overall needs. So we have just started getting a few persons requesting to be in person. If there is an oversubscription, we'll have to make a decision on what's the next step.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the last part.
Is that clear?
The last sentence you said, I didn't get that.
If there is an oversubscription of requests for the spaces,
right,
then we'll have to make a decision as to how we will handle the additional requests.
So you all are going to decide who's going to attend in person.
Well, you were looking at first come, first served, but we're looking at if there is a massive oversubscription of requests for persons to be in person, rather than dismissing it outright, what is going to be our next step? So we're actually looking at that to make a decision.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Clooney, a member of our Jamaica Diaspora Northeast Health Sector.
I'm sorry, Dr. Dunkley.
Thank you. Yes.
Dr. Dunkley, did someone say that they had registered, but they had not seen their registration?
Yes, Asinet Nelson. Asinet, are you still on? Are you?
I am on. Yes. Hi.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? I
Yes.
registered. I received a confirmation, but it didn't tell me. I said yes for in person, but it didn't tell me that I was registered for in person. And I was not able to select all 3 days. And there are a number of the options that I cannot select. So I'm not sure what's wrong with that. And I'm not sure. So I don't know if you have my registration.
Okay, you were not able to register for all 3 days. You could only select 1 day?
Just 1 day.
All right, we'll have to investigate that because that's not the norm.
And the areas for interest, I am not able to update those. So there are just a lot of discrepancies on the form. I know I have Pastor Fred and Pastor Glado, and I'm not sure if they received their confirmation either.
Okay, so you have two specific issues. One, you were not able to select more than one area of interest, and you were not able to select more than 1 day.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is there any other issue? Because you said multiple issues.
There's one more issue. I selected yes for registration, but I did not for in person, but I did not receive a confirmation for in person.
Right. And so I would say it again. What we had indicated on the form is that persons would indicate whether they wanted to be in person or not. And we had a paragraph that was right under that section that highlighted what was going to be the next step. So are you interested in being in person? And you indicated yes. So we have received that indication that you are interested in being in person.
Okay.
Can I just address the area of interest part, if I may? Yeah, so there were two sections. One was a drop-down menu that you could select one of the areas of interest, and then actually under that, it said other. And so I just wrote in the other ones that I was interested in because it doesn't allow you to choose more than one from the drop-down.
That is
okay.
Correct.
We'll have to investigate that because and when I registered and other persons registered, you're able to select more than one option. So we really need to investigate these two instances. This is too many that you had a challenge selecting more than one area of interest.
And I'll just add one more issue that's on the form. If you update an emergency contact's phone number, it overwrites your actual phone number on the form.
Yes, I was experiencing that.
Sure I'm not sure if it's just my form that's causing
No, my form had that too. Sorry, this is Celia Ogilvie, and I couldn't select more than one either, although it says you can select more than one area.
All right, so we'll address this immediately.
And I couldn't select more than 1 day. I selected 3, but it only chose 1.
Who am I speaking to now? Is this Miss Nelson?
No, that's somebody else.
That's Celia Ogilvie. She has your surname. That's your namesake, Lisa.
I sent you an email,
I'm
Lisa.
not even related.
Yes.
We are actually, but we'll talk off.
It doesn't give in case you're oversubscribed. No preferential. I'm just joking. Great. So let me thank everyone for staying with us. We had 2 of our major community partners or community leaders. They have a meeting at 8:30, and I think they have had to leave us. So we want to thank those of you who have remained. They did convey to us that they were meeting immediately after our session because the discussion for them is asked for a conference and their group, their organization's participation. So they were extremely thankful for the briefing and planned a meeting around the briefing. So thank you for those who have remained. And we're recording this meeting so we can share the recording with them for what they have missed. On that note, we will end promptly in 15 minutes. And so we are going to ask again our 5 remaining. I see some hands up. I think we have addressed the questions in the chat and the questions via social media. that have come to us. Thank you, Ms. Brenda Peart. Reverend Godfrey, you are sharing that Jamaica is a borderless country for decades and there are more Jamaicans. So you are indeed correct. We, especially coming out of COVID-19, we are a borderless diaspora. And so having a hybrid conference portends great things in terms of innovation for us at a time like this. Dr. Michael Morgan, your question briefly, followed by Mr. Michael Campbell, Mr. Rattigan, and Ms. Lorraine Badley, and then we will conclude. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, distinguished panel guests, for having us and having this conference. I appreciate it. I'm going to make this quick. I don't know if we've ever thought about something in regard to education, especially for those kids who live in these volatile areas where we might be able to have boarding school for the 5 days that they should be in school, where we have them outside, which will help with one, education, so they can be educated in a setting where they're not traumatized, suffering from PTSD from multiple gunshots at night. Two, it takes them away from some of those elements that they would be attracted to. And three, at least they would be able to see another side of life being somewhere else, except inside their neighborhood where they might be more exposed to crime and violence. That's one. Two, in regards to the healthcare, is there anything that's been done over the past years to bridge and truly bring the diaspora to the table? I'm not talking about a rubber stamp or something on a board, but to actually entertain and put into practice some of the things that we have brought to the table. I know you guys mentioned Dr. Reed recently, and we've been trying to get something established which would help the entire Jamaica healthcare in terms of cancer and cancer treatment. And it's very hard to get anyone to even pick it up and take a look and to get back to us. And finally, in regards to our agriculture, is there anything being done to help to rewrite some of the policies with the hotels so that our local agriculture can actually sell their products to these hotels instead of them importing everything from overseas? And, the bottom line is not just having this conference to say we have a conference, but to actually start putting some meat on the bone and having us truly being involved.
Thank you so much, Dr. Morgan. Mr. Hall, thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Dunkley. Thank you so much for those questions. Of course, I could do the simple answer and say yes to all three, but certainly education, quite an innovative proposal. Of course, the tradition has been in some cases for boarding schools and I think we still have a few boarding schools left in the country. But for whatever reason, which I don't have those reasons, that is no longer seen as sort of the primary model that is being pursued. However, there is certainly scope for looking at things afresh and looking at particular areas where there is a specific concern and interest. Of course, it is about conversation. It's about reaching out with the Ministry of Education to see what is possible in this area. Of course, looking at them working in partnership with others, social intervention programs that they could facilitate that kind of outreach and solution for children who are in those volatile areas, whether it be inner city or in rural areas. But certainly not dismissing it, saying that it can't happen, but it really requires an ongoing conversation to see what is possible. In terms of healthcare, the healthcare is one of those sectors in terms of diaspora engagement that I can consider as one of the more successful areas of engagement, looking both at it from the medical mission side and also the sort of collaboration that has been held over the years with certain disciplines in the medical field. That as well, it's a difficult sector, however, given standards and regulations that are not universally applicable. So there's that first hurdle that would need to be overcome, which is getting to a point where there is an agreed basis to proceed, with these various regulations and standards. I think that is what the main problem is. And until those standards and regulations are amended, we of course have no choice but to abide. And I think just using the example of COVID, with the difference in approach with the US response for COVID versus the Jamaican public health response to COVID, two different sets of responses to the same condition. So that right there speaks to the differences between the two medical systems. Not to say that collaboration and cooperation is impossible, but these are the realities that we have to deal with. In terms of agriculture, before COVID, I know that quite a few hotels purchased product locally. The issue with the local market is that it is not insufficient output to satisfy the demand of all the hotels. So there is a requirement for hotels to import some of those items that are needed. But I know for sure that there are various properties that would engage with farming communities in their vicinity to purchase supplies for their hotels. But of course, it's just not sufficient. The output is not sufficient to sustain the demand by the hotels. But so those are the responses that I would offer to your three areas of questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hall. And if the questions and the feedback and the energy and the interest is any indication of what we can expect for conference, then we are on an excellent path. We will absolutely exceed our 5,000 goals. So thank you so much. Let's go, Mr. Michael Campbell. We're down to 9 minutes. So we're going to again emphasize, please ask your questions briefly, followed by Mr. Rattigan, Mr. Rain Badley, and I see Dr. DK, and we will conclude. Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Dr. Dunkley. Good evening, everyone. My question is for Ms. Ogilvie. Earlier in your overview, you mentioned that because of COVID protocols, we are not able to have more than the 100 persons in the space that is being provided for the conference. Could you advise me, where are those protocols? What are they? Because most of the country, as well as the world, is now putting their COVID protocols at rest. So could you advise me, where are these protocols in Jamaica? And if memory served me correct, our Prime Minister had lifted all of these protocols. So could you give me an understanding here? Thank you.
All right. No problem. I'll ask Mr. Hall to address your question.
You're muted, Mr. Hall. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. Thank you for that. Right. Thank you for the question. The DRMA has been lifted, of course, the Disaster Risk Management Act, which sets out the general public health response to COVID. I had indicated in my presentation that normally our conference room would be able to hold up to 250 people. But because we had discussions with the Ministry of Health when planning to have the conference, and they have advised us, and we're following that guidance, that given the continuing effect of COVID, given the low vaccination rate in Jamaica, and of course, you see the cases have been trending up now, positivity rate is on the increase again in Jamaica. They have recommended to us, and we have followed that recommendation, that we limit in-person participation to 100. Masks, they have suggested that we ask people to wear masks as well, and that sanitization protocols would be observed in the facility of the ministry. Ms. Chin, Shauna Chin, and Dr. Cunningham were at the launch. They had to wear masks for the duration of the launch, except when speaking. So while the DRMA has been lifted, there are certain public health recommendations that the Ministry of Health is encouraging companies and agencies to observe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Mr. Rattigan, thank you so much for your patience. Please ask your question briefly, followed by Ms. Badley, Dr. DK, and then Mr. Roden. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Dunkley, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. All protocols observed. Mr. Tavares asked a question about diaspora representation in the Senate, and I was a bit distracted, so I didn't hear the fullness of this question and the answer. So if I'm asking a question that's been answered already, just ignore me. But given the media coverage and the significance of this issue and the government's longstanding support of diaspora representation in the Senate, going all the way back to 2010, as far as I can recollect, will this issue be on the agenda for this conference?
Thank you so much, Mr. Rattigan.
Thank you, Mr. Rattigan. I will take a go at that question. The short answer is no, it is not on the agenda for conference, for the Jamaica 60 Diaspora Conference. That is a matter that will have to be discussed and considered in the relevant committee in Parliament, which has been set up, hasn't met in a while, but it has been set up to discuss this very issue. So no, not on conference agenda. Of course, the question can be raised in the appropriate forum for a response, but it is not formally on the agenda for this session.
Thanks.
I do want to extend, Mr. Rattigan, that what we shared with Mr. Tavares, which you know, that we have several advocacy groups here in the diaspora around this issue that's heavily engaged in the research around it and the strategies and looking at best practices and models. So I think it's important maybe that we stay connected, so we're cohesive in terms of diaspora voice, so that when the opportunity comes, we are prepared, ready, and engaged and informed about how best to bring this goal to fruition. So thank you so much. And excited to learn, Mr. Franz Nicholas Hall, your entire government, the kids would say, that they have reconvened the committee, and we are also privy to that information as well, based on our advocacy. Thank you. Ms. Lorraine Badley, your question. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Franz, good to see you. Oh my goodness. You're just in a picture. I'm having a bad hair day. I'm not turning on this camera. But in any case, what I want to talk to you about briefly, I think Professor Ying, somebody asked something regarding crime, and Professor Ying said something about a security conference, because the problem in Jamaica with crime is such a big one. You probably need a conference on its own just to handle it, But I was wondering if the Commissioner of Police would possibly, because I remember meeting one in 2013, at the Diaspora Convention, wouldn't it be good to have someone like that to answer questions at this convention? And then one quick thing just to put into your head. I know that Jamaica has received quite a bit of funds and regarding children and the concern for the Vice President and how and what's happening to our children there. I am wondering if some of the funds that is received could be allocated for community centers for children. And by that, you could have tutoring, sewing, tennis court, whatever it is that you could put there to get these kids off the street and have them where they could go somewhere and positive things happen in that building. And where the police commissioner comes involved in this is, if you have let's say, a community center for children, and let's say ages, I don't know, I'm gonna say maybe 7 to 14 or whatever age, they wanna put there. You would probably need security or maybe a police that just man that building, just because it's Jamaica and you don't want anything kooky happening there, And so I think we'll have to start looking at
30 seconds. Thank you.
30 seconds. Okay, I'll wrap up. We just need to look at things that we can do if we're going to bring Jamaica back to where it is and have all the other good things that they're doing, good roads and everything else. We have to start with that section of people who are not functioning well in order to bring everything back. And the floor is back to you. I know it's long. It's a loaded question.
Hello, Ray. Good to hear you.
Hey, hi. How you doing, Professor?
I'm all right. What I would say about the last suggestion is that it fits with the two sessions that I mentioned. One is where we're speaking about community transformation. And so a specific project like that could be mentioned here, because what we're interested in is specific projects that we can actually implement after the conference. So you don't have to really have a conference on crime, but if you take a specific suggestion like that at that session, then we can flesh it out and say this is something we could implement after the conference. So both at the session where the faith-based groups are dealing with community transformation, as well as in the education section where they're dealing with community transformation, we could propose a specific project like that as an action item coming out of the conference.
Okay. I could see that, but we need to start.
Thank
Well,
you.
let's consolidate the idea before the 16th.
Okay.
All right, Lorraine, so I hand that over to you
right.
to work it out.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine, and thank you, Professor Ying. Dr. Agram DK, if you could ask your 30-second question, and Dean, this has to be, you have the final question, a 30-second question. Thank you, Dr. DK.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dunkley. My question is around faith-based and community transformation. I serve as a faith-based engagement advisor to the White House Faith-Based Office and lead the Caribbean African Faith-Based Conference. So we're exposed to a number of programs. So my question quickly is this: is there an opportunity for the faith groups in the US, that's the Jamaican, predominantly Jamaican churches here, to engage faith-based leaders in Jamaica to create programs or to develop partnerships around community transformation? For example, we have the deportees coming out of jails and prisons here in the US coming back to Jamaica. There is nothing in place for many of them in terms of a place to stay, how they settle, adjustments, and these are things that can be done through faith-based organizations, and these are issues that can be addressed. Is there an opportunity for engagement such as that with our faith-based groups here and the faith-based groups in Jamaica?
Sorry you missed the introductory comments, because that's exactly what the special forum at the end of the first day is about. It's about the faith-based groups. I don't know if you missed that in my
I heard the introductions, but I'm not sure if there are opportunities.
No, but you are the person who is going to frame the content of that discussion. So what I would suggest very briefly is that Karen, who is the person from Philadelphia who is coordinating that section?
So with faith, that actually, Dr. DK, is Bishop Sean Bartley, and I know Reverend Peart is also here. So I will absolutely, Dr. DK, loop back with you. And just to highlight someone who has done this work that we know quite well, Carmita Albaros, as well in terms of the reintegration. You speak about deportees and all of the social impact services with Fury. And so we will, the Family Unification and Resettlement Initiative. And so what we can do and will do, Professor Ying, will make all the connections necessary so we are ready and prepared.
Right, and you have all of Tuesday afternoon, 2 hours to do that.
Great, thank you.
Because there's a special forum on the faith-based and community transformation.
Thank you
so
so
much. So what I would
Also,
suggest
I am aware of the forum. I'm talking about the local faith-based leaders in Jamaica, the major players.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that, if you allow me, what we expect is that you will include in your forum persons from the main diaspora areas and Jamaica in that discussion. So you'd have people from Canada, from the US, from the UK, and also Jamaica in that forum. So
okay,
what
thank you, sir.
I'll discuss with Karen outside of this session is how can we work with you in terms of connecting the 3 diaspora major locations and also your counterparts in Jamaica for that forum on Tuesday afternoon. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. One more second, please. I wanted to know if other non-Jamaican born or descendants are allowed to participate, such as other faith leaders or supporters of Jamaica, or who wants to do philanthropy or investment in Jamaica. Are they allowed to register?
If I could take that, Dr. DK, thank you for the question. Yes, they can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And we know, Dr. Agram, that you have quite a tremendous impact in the African community and the African Caribbean community. So absolutely. All right, it is 9:04. And so we are going to conclude here. Dean, you have waited patiently. You have the last question.
Yes.
30 seconds. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Professor Yang, I don't know if I'd work with you. I'm working with Professor Barry Shevens and from the Augustown community. Looking forward to have those 5 community.
Barry's office was right before my office. We worked very closely together.
Yeah, man, Dean Road from Hermitage. I used to have a little shop, a little homework program across the road in
That's
Hermitage
right.
there. Yeah, man. What I want to find out, a part of the Northeast Diaspora and the crime intervention program, we have several programs in place. I have been to several of these conferences from Skill 2000 and they present all these things, but the diaspora have programs going on now. How can we strengthen this program? I have a program with Let's Talk for the past almost a year now. And I tell you, I even get sent some computer. It is so struggling to get these things that is in place. I've been working with the 5 community in Augustown for the past 2 years. We even started a faith. We talk about faith, all
30
church.
seconds,
Yeah,
Dean.
30 seconds.
30
And we
seconds.
could not get one person from a faith-based person to even come on the platform. So the conference is not to recycle new program. What can we do to strengthen the existing thing that the diaspora is doing presently now? Because there are several projects that we try to get off the ground.
Thank you so much.
A quick answer, Karen, to that.
Yeah.
The way I did it was to work with local agencies who are already working in the communities. So when I did the Jamaica, the Diaspora Youth Connect project, I linked with the Mona Social Services who are actually there every day, right through the year. I work with RISE Management. In other words, the key to it is, how do you work with the other organizations that are on the ground? And Augustown, for instance, have about 6 different organizations on the ground. So that's my quick suggestion, and we can talk about it off this session. That's a key way, because actually they are there when the conference is finished, and they will carry on the work.
Sorry, Professor, I'm doing that presently now. I'm working with Kenneth, African Garden. I host all these meetings in African Garden, Miss Maitland. I'm the person that hosts these meetings. Yes.
Dean, I'm getting, people do have to log off. They're texting me personally. I think I want us to hold this. Do you mind if we conclude and then we continue with Professor Ying? If he'll hold on a little bit, Professor Ying, is that okay?
Sure.
If we just wrap? Thank you so much, because Dean is such a great partner of ours that we certainly want to ensure a strong communication with you. Thank you so much, Dean, for being gracious to us, but we want to be mindful of everyone who's waiting for us to conclude. So thank you to everyone who has attended this evening. Thank you to all of our partners, our community leaders, our activists, our advocates, just people who love Jamaica because we are Jamaicans, and we want to ensure that we develop in a way that our grandchildren will be proud as we celebrate 60 years and plan for the next 60 years. So let me first of all say to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, our good partners, thank you so much. Our Consulate General of Jamaica, New York, all the staff, our Consul General Wilson, the Honorary Consul Chaplain, and the Jamaica Diaspora Northeast United States, all of the community leaders, our think tank who lead in our states and in our sectors, thank you. The final question is, how do we measure and monitor the outcomes of the conference? What has happened so far, and how will we keep a record? And I know Doreen Buchanan and Leslie Ann, they said, Karen, make sure that you ask about the monitoring and the implementation. And the think tank, Rookie Wilson, have asked this question. So Professor Ying, I know that we discussed implementing some kind of benchmarking around implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of the areas highlighted from conferences moving forward. And we will commit to this as a part of the process, so we are reflective as we celebrate 60, but plan for the next 60 and 100 years. So walk good, one love, join us June 14th to 16th, 2022 in a hybrid fashion as we reignite a nation for greatness. Thank you, and we're signing off. And for those who wish to remain with us, thank you so much. And let me thank you again, Mr. Franz Nicholas Hall, Ms. Lisa Ann Ogilvy, and Professor Neville Ying. Thank you so much for gracing and being here with us in the Jamaica diaspora, Northeast United States. Thank you. And so you may continue.
Yeah, France, this is Donahue Bailey from Pennsylvania, Philadelphia Trade Council. How are you? I'd pass it on.
I'm well, sir. How are you?
I'm all right.
Good.
Good to know that you're